Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Twisted Word Show. We are back, and today we have the awesome Irina with us. She is an author as well. She's also an English teacher, and she writes children's books. She also writes adult books and all the different kinds of things. And that's why we need the prefix awesome for her. So, welcome, Irina.
Hello, Yash. Hello, Marianna. Nice to see you
Hi,
again.
Irina. Welcome on the
Long
show.
time, long time no see. Thank you.
Exactly. It's been a while. Our first ever guest on the Twisted Word Show was Irina. Fun fact. Um, the when I used to do it. Okay. So Irina is here with us, and she'll be sharing a few tips and for writers, of course. And so, okay, let's get started.
Okay, so technology isn't exactly my thing, so I wish I won't be getting embarrassed here. I wanted to share with you a few practical tips in creative writing, which both professional authors and uh, people who are trying to write, so new authors, should take into consideration. First of all, the most important thing is to develop a unique writing voice. You should embrace your individuality. Either you like a certain author from the masters, from the great ones, or you just can't find your way in this writing process. You should try to find things that make you unique. um, I don't know if I mentioned, but I am also an editor. And one day, a young, talented, very talented, a young man who was very talented, sent me his text to correct. And he wrote something, um, a very interesting text placed in the somewhere about 90/20, 90/30 or so. And the dialogue was very vivid, but the narration sounded like he was imitating the style of his favorite author, which I think he was. So you should find your way. Either you like Tolkien, you shouldn't exactly copy his style, but find something that defines you. Experiment with the narrative techniques and develop a distinctive style.
Absolutely. But also for
Next,
beginners, this becomes a very important thing because when they just starting to write, uh, they will tend to absorb everything that they can from what they read, and obviously it will flow out. It will they will end up copying the style of other writers until they develop their own style, which is excellent.
yes, these things happen to us all. That's
Yes,
why we should be aware of it, of this phenomenon, and try to move forward to find our own path. Also, it's been said a million times, but mastering show don't tell is a must. So, it comes to my mind the smell of fresh baked bread from my early days. When I was a child, my mom used to bake bread. This smell has followed me to adulthood, and I always go back to that moment because it's a memorable feeling. This perception is memorable. So, in order to master this show don't tell principle, we should pay attention to the nuances in the world around us, pay attention to details that evoke emotion and paint vivid pictures for the readers. Um, Also, engaging readers' senses by using descriptive language allows the readers to experience the scene as if they were there. So, incorporating sound, smell, touch, and taste brings the story to life. Some authors tend to only focus on sight, which is pretty normal. But if we want to create a vivid image of something, we should also include smell, which is really important, and touch, taste. Also,
All of it
why is
creates a very immersive experience, like you just said.
yes. Also, why is it important to show, not tell? This rule doesn't apply everywhere and to any kind of text, but some authors tend to spoon feed their readers with information. Um, I have here an example. I don't know if I can manage to show it to you uh, uh, from a text. This is a badly written text. The woman was frightened and cold in the dark room. Then she felt strong and hope that she will be free. As I said, it's an example of telling a very badly written text. And we could, I suggest solving this problem and turning it into an immersive sensory uh, image. And I've rewritten the text that goes like this. The woman's heart pounded in her chest so hard she could hear the beats. She was as pale as a ghost, and tiny beads of sweat were sliding down her forehead. She wrapped her arms around her while steam was coming out of her mouth with every breath she took, and although she couldn't see well, she remembered that she had left a note on the desk before he took her. Someone is going to find it for sure, and soon they will be looking for her. She had told them his name, and they would look for him too, and they would find her. She would be free soon. She smiled and she took a deep breath, making her heart settle down. She could be free. Um,
Absolutely. Everything
um,
that was told in the first sentence have now been shown and explained more in the second example that you gave.
Mm. And
as
also, if I can just add that it's easier to picture yourself in the scene if you show and don't tell. I know there's a time and place for everything. There are times where you have to tell something, but
That's right.
that's not the rule. Usually, it's better to, like Irina says, include all the senses. And I get what you're saying about the smell, the sense of smell, and how important that is, and how that can take you back to a place where you've been before. That memory, like you use the example of baked bread, how it takes you back to the time your mom baked the bread. It really does work.
Yes, you're right, Mariana. And as I said before, this isn't a general rule. You shouldn't
Yeah.
apply it anywhere.
Yes.
There are action scenes which only um, get stopped if you use showing and not telling.
Yes.
This is the wrong place to choose to show a person. Oh, sorry, my Adam expired. As I said, it's the wrong place to show. Um, it would be preferable to just tell what things are happening in order to push the action forward.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, Also, Another tip is to have in mind the kind of character you want to create. You want to create a compelling character, a relatable one, because if the character doesn't trigger this personal feeling in the heart of the reader, one would surely abandon that book. So characters must be multi-dimensional. Sorry again for this. I'm going to talk freely this time because having trouble with technology.
Welcome back. Technology took the better of us, and now we are here. Uh, we just had some technical issues, so now it's going to be just the three of us talking and not the slides and everything. So let's continue.
We were talking about creating compelling characters, and we said they need to be complex, multidimensional, and have their own motivations that drive their actions. Crafting this depth and complexity is a key to creating characters that feel authentic and engaging for the reader. Also, another tip would be that characters should be relatable, and also, in order to be relatable, as any other human being, they should have flaws. Perfect characters only make us want to, I don't know, kill them. Also, I don't like perfect characters. Um,
We discussed
there isn't such
many
a
such
thing as a
related
perfect
things.
person.
Yes, please continue.
There isn't such a thing as a perfect person.
Exactly.
There's a book here in Romania that was really appreciated by a certain category of people. She is Cinderella with a lot of money, and it's an autobiography. And she falls in love with the brother of the guy who she lives with, and the guy keeps her locked up. And this character is so perfect, you just really want to kill her. She's really annoying because she's being described. It's an autobiography, remember, as if I was talking about myself and saying, "Oh, Irina went to the orphanage, and from her wonderful heart, simply, I don't know, adopted an orphan to him home." It's unbelievable. That's the word. Relatable, unbelievable characters
Unrealistic.
who should have flaws.
Mm.
I remember Jerry Jenkins' example of such a character. There was this brilliant detective who solved all the cases, and women adored. And he has to solve a difficult case, but everything seems unnatural because uh, what are the stakes here? If he's so perfect, of course he's going to solve the case because he's perfect, and that's not relatable. um,
Mm.
so embrace imperfections and also internal conflicts to make your
Abs-
characters more realistic and sympathetic to the audience. Um, One also should be aware of
Right,
character
Irina?
arc and growth. Yes, Mariana, sorry.
I just wanted to mention the growth. Characters shouldn't stay the same throughout the story. They should grow and change and learn stuff. And yeah, I think that's the point you wanted to make. Now, your next point.
Absolutely.
Yes, this is essential for creating a satisfying character arc. Um, um,
Mm.
if the characters don't change, don't evolve throughout the story, It's like I said before, there are no stakes. Everything is to be expected, and this isn't relatable
Yeah.
to the readers. People evolve throughout life because they go through a series of experiences that change them. Um,
Yeah.
if a character is shy, maybe he discovers uh, how to not let himself be stepped on. Um, or if a character is impulsive, maybe he, by the end of the book, um, changes into a person who can learn how to take a breath and solve problems step by step without exploding. Um, that's really important in creating a
Yeah.
story. Also, in our little pause here, when technology wasn't of any use for us, Mariana mentioned something she wanted to ask me. You can ask me, Mariana.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You mentioned about, or you wanted to talk about head shifting, and I asked you how would you handle a story where you do want to tell a story from different characters' perspective without head shifting, if that makes sense, if my question makes sense.
Um, so when writing a story, before starting to write the story, an author, a writer should know the perspective in which he is going to write this text. Either it is in a first person limited, or second or third person limited, or third person omniscient, or either if it's going to be in second person, which is point of view which not many people have tried exploring so far. Market.
I'm sorry,
Um,
Irina, I have to interrupt. I want you, can you bring the mic closer because there is kind of,
yes.
yeah,
Sorry.
thank you very much.
Um, so as I mentioned before, there is narration in second person is possible. Um, and we will talk about this um, and more and analyze this point of view deeply. Um, and as I said, authors should be aware of the perspective they are telling the story from. And beware of head shifting, which is hopping from the head of a character, the mind of one character to another, and somehow misleading the reader. He isn't even going to be able to understand who's telling the story anymore. Is it him
Mm.
or her? Who is it? So mm, this is an important thing to remember. Also, if you can allow me, I'd like to share with you a little text that I've translated from a a book I'm working on right now, which is written in
Absolutely.
second person. Um, may I?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yeah,
here it
yeah,
goes.
go ahead.
That night you didn't sleep at all. You only closed your eyes pretending to sleep when the key turned in the lock. Vlad sat next to you, wrapping his arms around your waist, and you waited for him to doze off so you could leave. You went to the bathroom and washed your eyes to clear your mind, but you slipped on the tiled floor. He knocked on the door, worried that you weren't coming out. He found you huddled in a corner with tears on your face and mascara running down your cheeks. He took you by the shoulders, wiped your cheeks, and kissed the top of your head. "We need to talk," you said seriously, and the corners of your mouth turned down. It was probably then that he understood. He sat down and studied you from head to toe. You weren't at your best then. Your brown hair was now a wild mess of curly locks, and what had been the perfect makeup from the night before that accentuated your smoky eyes was now just a smudge of black. "I'm so sorry. You're the best person I know," you said. "What did you do?" he asked, syllabizing the word sorry. "Johnny and I," you started to say, and he cut you off, clenching his teeth and hitting the table next to him, causing the cup to spill. Oh, so that's an extract from a text I'm working on right now. It's written in second person, and I wanted to know what it feels like when listening to such a text in second person point of view.
Um,
Um,
from my side, I can find it relatable, but I believe that it might not be the same for example, a male reader reading from a woman's perspective and being called you in second person. So I believe there are limitations when you write in second person that's not necessarily there in first or third person. Am I correct?
yes, there are certain limitations, you're right. Um, so you should keep in mind who is the target audience. There are certain books such as romance who are targeted to women in general, or I don't know,
Yeah.
sci-fi who. So you should keep in mind who the reader is, and you should be also open to critique, because not everyone is going to
Mm.
relate to this you perspective if the you from the text is, let's say, a murderer. How would you feel when describing you're killing someone? Uh, that wouldn't feel right. Maybe it would be something that is contrary to your beliefs, and you won't feel at ease when reading such things. I think the key word here is feeling. You're going to be feeling whatever it is described in the text. Either it is good or bad, you'll be feeling all of it. And some people might find this maybe mm, horrifying, or maybe interesting, or maybe delightful. Um, so it's actually something that should be in let's say balance with you what you want to create. Um, it's a tricky task of keeping just the right amount of
Mm.
distance in the story. This is also for the writer and when reading the story, because it pulls the reader in and makes them feel super connected, but also it
Mm.
feels immediate. So the challenge might be to for readers, some readers, to see themselves as in a protagonist's shoes. Um, when something is being forced on them, um, either
Mm.
you can relate or not to this kind of style.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
taking my chance with this. but I think it's going to be a great book. Um, when I finish it, I'm not going
Absolutely.
to say.
We should always continue, keep trying new things because you never know what you'll discover your unique style is, like just we just discussed.
Exactly. Exactly. And I was just gonna say, Irina, you must please keep us posted when you're done with the book so that we can
Absolutely.
tell our listeners to go and look for it.
I'm really happy that you're now considering reading or trying maybe this kind of a perspective. Um, there are certain books
Yeah.
which are already on the market, like Bright Lights, Big City by Jane McKerney. Um, and some people even
Mhm.
think Carolyn Kepnes' you might have seen the You movie, is written in second person, but actually it's written in third person limited. Um, um, Also, some readers might find the constantly being addressed in the second person can feel a bit confusing. They struggle to calibrate their own
Mm.
real life experience with the set of characteristics of this particular protagonist. Uh, so, this difference between the reader's own identity and the character's fixed traits can make second person less effective, but it also can feel um, interesting and also mm, provide many possibilities for the development of the book. Um,
Irina,
um, yes,
I just want to ask, can you give us a brief explanation of the difference between person and third person limited?
well, in second person, there's this you perspective. You
You,
are
yes.
constantly being addressed with you, while in third
Yeah.
person limited, there's this narrator who tells the story, following a character throughout the novel. So it's going to be addressed with he. So he is the key word here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you may ask, what's the difference between third person limited and third person omniscient? I think that's really important. Um,
Yes.
Third
Yeah.
person limited only follows one person. So the narration is
Uh,
being told from only one perspective, that of the protagonist. Um, it is possible to change this perspective from a chapter to another. Um, Meaning you can write one chapter from John's perspective and the other from Patricia, maybe. I was trying to find a name for the protagonist. Um, while in third person omniscient, which is considered a more uh, maybe not so accurate, not so um, recommended point of view, is the one where the narrator knows everything about everyone, knows what's going to happen, and he's the absolute god who's pulling the strings throughout the story. That's the difference. And also, if you'd
yeah.
like, we could talk about first person limited, which is the perspective uh, from the perspective of I can be the main character here. I'm doing the action. Um, Everything we see through the lenses of the protagonist. Also, we could change protagonist, or we could change the perspective from a chapter to another. I did this in the second volume of my novel Blue Fog. It hasn't been translated yet. I'm working on it. It's in Romanian, and one chapter is from David's point of view, and the next we see Maya's point of view. I find it really useful to see two perspectives, how one character sees some events and how the perspective in which another sees them. Um, so either you choose first person limited, third person limited, third person omniscient, or a second person POV. That's up to the writer. Uh, Having in mind who the reader is and what kind of a story it is. So I find that young adult books can work better from a first person perspective. Um, Fantasy books maybe can be written in third person limited, and so on. Um, I'm using this second person perspective in a book that's maybe psychological thriller with some horror. Um, so I think it works really well for this story. I chose this perspective, especially for what I had in mind.
Which
Um,
uh, which do you find easier to write and which has posed more challenges for you?
uh, I think third person limited has brought a few problems when handling. Um, I used to tend to hit head shift as well, and I have to remember that this is the perspective I'm telling the story from. Either it is from John. Well, I'm sticking with John throughout the story, so the girl next to him. Uh, mm, I can't describe things she's seeing because I'm only looking through the eyes of John. So I find this the most difficult. Strangely, I'm enjoying the process of writing in second person. Um, I find it intriguing and also resourceful. Um, I'm really enjoying this. Um, I find it easy to write in first person, limited. Um, I don't know. There's also the uh, a catch here. Um, Making things, so seeing things only through the lenses of the protagonist. So he shouldn't know things that he can't see, he hasn't heard. Um, he can't know if someone is coming from behind him unless he's feeling the hand um, behind his neck. These are things that should be handled with a lot of attention to details, such details that make everything. Um, if you want, we could move on to
Yeah.
something um, that interests me a lot, which is subtext, subtext in dialogue. Um, so, what exactly is subtext? It's what is there in dialogue and hasn't been told, but you can um, see through the reactions of the body, or maybe the tone, or maybe the smile. Um, so incorporating this subtext into dialogue will enrich conflict and add depth beneath the surface of dialogue in action. So characters might say one thing but mean a totally other thing. They might be forced to confront some issues that they have been avoided addressing. So this type of conflict can be more subtle yet very powerful. Um, it's um, something that any author should try to incorporate in their text. And in order to do this, I suggest paying attention to the little details in real life. So, how do people pronounce things in a certain context? So, what tone do they use? How do they react? Uh, mm, do they sweat when they're telling something, or do they, let's say, you might ask me, are you angry at me? Are you upset? And I'm going to smile and just say, no. So that's subtext. Um, you have to understand that there are certain things beneath that.
Exactly. Or
There's
if we go
a
like,
hidden layer.
or if I introduce the show and begin the show, like today we have Irina with us, and we are going to have an amazing episode. Rolling my eyes, laughing again.
Are you being
So,
sarcastic?
exactly. So these
Let's
are
make it
so
wonderful.
yeah. So just like you said, one could say something, but mean totally another thing. So using
So,
yeah,
yes, so as I said, in order to do this, we should identify certain aspects in real life conversations, such as the tone of voice, body language, and the context in which things are happening. So, you just broke my cup and you asked me the same thing. Are you upset? No, no,
oh,
just my ancient cup. I've had it for 20 years and I always drink my milk with it and coffee. Now, why would I be upset? No, that's nothing. This is subtext. Um, why do we use subtext? It reveals characters' motivation, um, their deeper fears, their desire, which are not explicitly stated in a dialogue. And this allows readers to infer the characters' true feelings and deeper connections. Um, it also creates tension and conflict. So, employing subtle contradictions between what a character says and what they really mean will generate tension and conflict. Imagine having to uh, two people in the kitchen. They are married, and she says, "Let's visit our parents tonight."
First of all,
And
I have to say this. I love how when Irina is describing these scenes in character, her voice changes.
hey, because I'm also a teacher, and this
Yeah.
is what I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, please
Uh,
continue.
so, honey, shall we visit our parents tonight? And he says, "Oh, I'm so tired, honey." And she says, "That's no problem." Yeah,
Exactly.
and that dialogue creates tension. Of course, she's upset. Of, of course, there's a problem there, and maybe next week they're going to get a divorce. So this is going to move the action forward. Um, Subtext creates conflict um, if you understand the principles of creating one and you use the right amount in order to suggest. So that's another keyword here, suggesting how a person might feel. So as I said, it is important the context in which something is happening. Um, Maybe so if it were some other people talking about the same thing, visiting her mother, uh, maybe things would go differently, but in this situation, the reader might understand that he isn't feeling comfortable when visiting his parents-in-law. um, so um, that's some things to remember when using subtext. And
Mhm.
subtext is also linked to body language. Um, so there are non-verbal cues. The eyes are often called the windows of the soul, and they can reveal a, a lot of subtle subtext in the character's dialogue. Subtle shifts in the gaze, the narrowing of the eyes, um, sideways glance
And
can
of course,
communicate.
the best one.
Pauses, of course.
No, of
Yes.
course, the
Pause.
best one, which Irina is a master of, the high-pitched voice.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you should see me when I teach and when I read the stories to children. Um, sorry. Okay.
No, this
There's
is awesome.
also the
This is
posture.
exactly. As an author, you know how to get inside a character, and that enhances your storytelling ability. And it is absolutely important for a teacher, especially, who has to get the
Mm.
students interested and at the same time
Yes,
learn about what is being taught.
Yeah.
exactly. I think your learners are very lucky to have you as a teacher.
Absolutely.
Um, I hope they feel this way. I love them so much, and I think the feeling is mutual. Um, let's
Oh.
go back to
Just give them good grades.
subtext.
They'll be happy as ever.
Mm.
I hope. um, as I said, posture and stance is also important in creating subtext. Characters' body position, such as crossed arms, hunched shoulders, or leaning in, this can indicate confidence, defensiveness, or interest. So these are non-verbal cues that provide important subtext, uh, which can either complement what the character is saying or either it can contradict the words they are saying. Should we take an example? I haven't got anything in mind right now, but either way, um, let's imagine he's
Before we
preparing a surprise
uh,
birthday.
just a second. Before we continue, I'd like to address a technical difficulty, after which we'll be back once again. We're back again. Sorry for the interruption. Please continue, Mariana. Oh, please continue, Irina.
So we were talking about subtext and posture and stance. And we said that the way that the character's body is positioned can indicate the way he's feeling. It can either complement or contradict the words they're saying. And I was just going to do some role playing again. So let's say that she's preparing a surprise birthday party for him, her husband, and he's not really the party kind of a person, and he had asked her not to organize such a party. But anyways, she is doing this in secret, and she has a certain smile on her face, like something that's going to betray what she's planning, thinking, and doing. And he's going to ask him, I don't want a birthday party. Yes, of course. I'm not throwing you one. Uh,
Yeah.
are you sure? And she's going to say, yes, I'm sure I'm not doing anything. But there's a tiny smile on her face, which is betraying her real intentions in this particular situation. This is and also her body is slightly, because we were talking about body and stance. She can't even stop from moving. She's a bit agitated about guests coming in, and she's playing with a tissue maybe, and doing some gestures that betray what her plans are. This is also subtext. Um, so also expressive gestures, as I said, as hand movements, fidgeting, and gestures that can reveal the character's inner thoughts and emotions. Um, I think that's about enough with the subtext. All I had to say about subtext today. And I was thinking of talking also about another tip in writing, which is
Yes.
keeping it simple and short and simple. So the KISS principle, um, we can also find it in the form keep it simple, stupid. Um, I have to confess that I myself am really picky when reading a book. If there are descriptions that don't trigger the action forward and just bore me to death, um, I would eventually abandon the book. So the key to success is less is least. The less is best. Sorry, less is best. Um, Trying to only describe and analyze things that help develop the character or propel the action forward.
Absolutely.
in
There's
my
no reason
editing.
describing something that has absolutely no contribution to the plot or the character or anything that is related to the scene, because that is just like a filler. And if you're never going to mention it again in the story, or if it doesn't have any meaning, then it shouldn't be there. Uh,
Yes, in my editing career, I might say,
yeah.
I have had the pleasure of editing um, books that were mm, full with such descriptions, and there were certain authors that were very keen on having as many pages, as many words in the book as possible, and they weren't willing to let go of anything. And some descriptions, some scenes were totally unnecessary. Describing what they had for breakfast was boring as, sorry, I was about to say a bad word, but boring. Um, sorry. Um, Mm, no, just keep it simple. Stick to whatever helps. As I said, better understand the protagonist, better understand certain characters. Uh, Also, describing places. Let's say you are describing the office of a person we shall never see again, and you try to give as many details as possible, from the mahogany furniture to anything. As I said, this will only um,
For the reader.
bore people. Yeah, this is really boring for people to read, but there are uh, things where you should be uh, willing
One
to
way
describe.
I just had this thought while you were giving the example. I had this thought. Um, one way of getting around this habit of describing things that don't really connect to the story and having them as fillers is you can take those things, like when the person is describing the table, and connect some story with it. For example, if that character is clumsy, you can add a little story or an arc that's saying that once when the character, while writing, of course, you need to incorporate this, not the way I'm going to say it. Once you can tell a story that happened a while ago, that once the character was going past this table, this and that happened, and he stumbled on it. Bad example, I know. What I'm trying to say is that you can use those things to hint at the character's personality, explore the character more himself, using those things that would otherwise be meaningless in if included without that thing. Am I making any sense?
Yes, yes, describing places and decor can help develop characters. If you instead of telling someone is poor, you can just describe a bit the place he is living in, and we're going to understand that he is poor. This is a good example of good use of description and details. But if it doesn't help in any way, you should take them out. Also, pay attention to useless words. The abundance of words isn't a must. You should stick with quality, not quantity. And whatever doesn't help, just take it out. Um, there are many examples of useless words in the text. I find them in my text, I find them everywhere. you can the best way to do it right is to keep it short and simple.
And at the same time, I think it is important to note here that these things of weeding out those words and those things that are not as important should be done when in the editing process. Because if one gets to these things while writing, he would only waste the time and not end up spending as much time as it needs to be spent on the writing part and more on the worrying part about, okay, is this right? Is this not right? Because leave all of that to the editing and focus on doing the thing first, writing it out first.
You're right here. It's exactly what we are doing, we editors do. Um, when um, when editing, we just like you should cut the dead wood from a tree in spring so it can flourish in summer. This is what you should do to your own text. Just cut out the unnecessary words, the dead wood from the text, and this will only increase the quality of your work and
Absolutely.
make the story easier to be read, easier to understand. The pacing will flow. It won't be something which seems to never end. Have you ever read of such a book that seems to never end? And I'm not talking of that adventure book where, yeah, you do have a lot of pages, but you go from action to action to things happen, and there's no such thing as
A conclusion, like
um,
you getting to a point where you feel like, okay, now this is done. Now what next?
yeah, yes, that's right. Um, Um, should we go on to another thing which I had in mind for today?
Sure. If Mariana has a few questions, she can ask Irina.
Please do,
Otherwise,
Mariana.
we can continue.
Yeah, I think we can continue. I'm with you with what you've said. I understand what you're getting at, and Yash's examples as well. It's very good.
Uh, I'd like to ask one question.
Yes,
We just
please.
talked about keeping the narrative simple and short, but at the same time, we discussed about showing and not telling. Showing actually makes your writing longer. So, when are the places when you think is expanding or having a longer narrative better than having a shorter one, or when is it better to have a shorter one than the longer one?
Oh, this is a technique which one masters through exercise. You have to keep a balance between the moments where description is necessary and moments when you should only tell. So, as I said, um, when creating a world and when showing the place in order to characterize to develop a character, you describe where he lives or what he's wearing. um, this is where you should do it. This is where you should describe. But when it comes to love, describing a love scene should balance feeling, action, so sensory and feeling, and should involve all of the five senses we have. Whereas when it comes to action scenes, you should keep it simple and only describe what the characters are doing. So not
Yes, it
describe,
has
but
to
show.
be because in action you tend to have a quick paced narrative, so that demands more telling than you. Because if you continue going on tangents, describing every little movement uh, in paragraphs, then you'll have an entire novel of just a punch.
Yeah,
I,
nobody wants to
I,
hear that.
Irina, from what I've noticed in some books is that they almost try too hard to show, not tell. And the description becomes so long that I've lost you in the third paragraph of descriptions. Like I cannot read anymore what the flowers looked like, what the birds sounded like.
No, thank
It's too
you.
much.
Yeah,
I also think even when showing, don't overdo it because it becomes boring. Like, and don't
Yes.
describe every color with some fancy name. If it's blue, it's blue. Sometimes you want to say,
sometimes I
use
just
a
don't
different
even,
description,
yeah,
but
sometimes
not too much.
sometimes I don't even know the name of I don't even understand what color they're talking about because
I
it's just some
have to
fancy
Google.
name.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like,
right, Mariana. You too, Yash. Yeah, there should be a balance, as I said, between when it is okay to show, when it is okay to tell. Um,
okay, so
that's
excellent. Now I think we can move to the next topic. Irina, what do you have for us?
um, building tension in a scene was something I wanted to um, talk to you about today. Because tension is a key part of storytelling because it captures the audience's anticipation and emotional connection. Um, it comes from the audience caring about what happens to the character. So he is being he is invests in how the situation turns out for this character. He is emotionally tied to his story. So tension is built through how characters interact, how the plot develops, and how the writer cleverly uses things like conflict or pacing or suspense to keep things edgy. Um, why is it necessary? As I said, in order to create engagement, uh, because tension really hooks the audience and keeps them glued to the story. It drives the readers to keep on going with the reading because they want to see what happens next.
Exactly.
If, without tension, scenes might seem dull and boring, and people would lose close interest. I think tension is related also to conflict, and we couldn't even imagine a book without conflict. If I
I like
told you my
to
parents' wonderful life,
I'd like
yes,
to add a little something, not add a little something, more like express what you just said in a in an imaginative sense. So it's like when there's no tension, no conflict in the story, uh, it corresponds to a sleepy state. However, when there is tension and the conflict, it's more like you are at the edge of your seat and just like,
yeah.
okay, what now? Reading and everything's
No,
going
what's going
crazy.
on?
I remember what Jerry J. King said in one of his creative writing videos. He said he told us his wonderful life with his wife and the fact that they never argued. They had, I don't know, two children and such a wonderful life, which is amazing for him. But is it interesting for you to hear? He answered back that no, it isn't. It's just boring. And having conflict, having tension in a scene, in a book, it is what makes us invest in characters and their stories. Also, there's the stake of this emotional connection. Tension builds emotional stakes by placing characters in situations that challenges their desires or fears or safety. And this encourages the audience to um, empathize with the characters and to root for them. Um, Also, tension is needed in creating plot lines. It's what, as I said, pushes the plot forward. It arises from obstacles and conflicts that the characters have to overcome. And resolving these tensions usually result in plot progression. So the plot moves forward.
Absolutely.
And each scene builds upon the last and increases the tension towards the climax of the story. Um, Another important factor is that tension leads to character development. Um, it forces characters to make decisions and take actions, often under pressure. Uh, this may reveal their values or their strengths or weaknesses, or they can make them overcome their weaknesses. It contributes to character development, as I said. And the way that characters handle these tense situations can lead to significant growth or change. And this ultimately makes them more complex and relatable. Also, tension is closely linked to suspense. Suspense means delaying the resolution of important plot points. Have you ever read a book which ended a chapter with a cliffhanger or a tension point where you needed to read more, and you're going to read the next chapter, although it starts in a low paced way, and you need to continue reading in order to find out what's the resolution.
Yeah.
In this way, the audience is kept guessing about future developments, and this can lead to surprising plot twists and turns that make the story more compelling. Um, High tension also makes solving conflicts and overcoming challenges feel more rewarding. When tension builds up uh, and builds up properly, uh, and it also peaks at the right moment, the resolution gives the audience a huge sense of relief and satisfaction, um, boosting how much they enjoy the story. Also, tension can influence the pace of the story. It can speed up things or make scenes feel urgent and fast paced, or it can slow things down. Um, so making other moments extra dramatic. So manipulating with tension effectively can help set the rhythm of the narrative just right. This is why you should include tension. But how do we do it? Um, we could use engaging scenes that often involve struggle for power or status, uh, as in conflict between conflicted desires and shifting power dynamics among characters. Also, um, integrating physical actions and setting chances with the scenes can amplify tension. And also, as I said before, starting and ending scenes strategically. Um, yes, it is a technique that you should consider. Ending a chapter at a high peak and starting the one in a low point, and also progressing to a high peak. This way, the reader is going to keep on. He's going to say, "Oh, just one more chapter." Oh, I'm doing the squeaky voice
Exactly.
again.
Because if you have the resolution or a complete satisfactory ending to the chapter, like the first chapter itself, then the reader is going to like, okay, now I'll read the chapter two whenever I want to, because they just had that feeling which they were supposed to have later in the story in the very start. So you need to keep them like the last page of a chapter should not be the last page. It should be more like the okay, I'm pulling on to the next page, and now oh what chapter did never ended. I'm on the next chapter and I have to read that one. And then it goes on and on until the book is completed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good strategy. Yes, Mariana.
No, I agree with Yash. And the thing is, once you get to that point where you don't want to put it down, like he says, then by the end of the night you might have finished the book because just one more chapter and then just one more and then just one more. Then you don't want to put it down again.
So, a writer should be able to manipulate the pace of the events within a
Yeah.
scene to effectively create the tension. Speeding up the action can create a sense of urgency, as I said. Also, slowing down at a critical moment can heighten suspense and anticipation, and keeping the readers, as you said, on the edge of their seats. They
Mm.
will be eager to and wait for the next chapter to begin and see what happens.
Um,
Also, dialogue can help with tension, as we said before. Subtext in dialogue as well.
yeah.
Exactly.
Dialogue,
Irina,
yes.
sorry, just before you go to that point, with this cliffhanger idea between the chapters, um, I think it's brilliant. But one thing I think where authors go wrong, in my opinion, is when they plan on writing a next book, is to end book one in a cliffhanger. I think that to me doesn't work because, yes, leave something to make you think there'll be a next book, but don't, you have to come to some conclusion in the first one, if that makes sense, at the end. Don't leave it completely unresolved because to me that's very disappointing. I remember reading a book once where I was so hooked and I just couldn't wait to get to the end. And when I turned that last page, it said to be continued. I nearly cried. I was so upset, and it took me years to actually pick up the second book because I was so upset with the first one and that ending.
Exactly.
Because there was no conclusion, no answers, and I mean, you've invested all this time in this book, and now you have to read the next one to hopefully get to
Then
some answers. So I think that is something authors might want to rethink, and not end the book with a cliffhanger.
I've ended one of my books with a cliffhanger.
however, like Mariana
In
said,
Blue
there should
Fog.
be some kind of resolution in that book. For
There must be
example, what
some
yes, whatever
satisfaction, you know what I mean?
exactly. Whatever initial problem the book one started with, it should solve that problem in the end. It can obviously
There might be another thing.
exactly. Like you could hint at the potential
Next,
of a book two, but at least end book one with the. I'm saying this, but I also ended my story livable phobos with a cliffhanger. However, now that I'm reworking all of it, I will definitely consider this point and try to have some kind of resolution.
Yeah,
Now, Irina, please.
sorry, Yash.
Go.
I'm sorry for talking when you were talking.
No,
So I said I finished Blue Fog. I've ended Blue Fog in a cliffhanger. I don't know if the resolution was satisfactory for the reader, but I have had a few, not many, reviews, which most of them were 5-star reviews, or they've said people have said that they've enjoyed the book very much and are eager to read the next. But I've had 1-star reviews from a person who was, although he enjoyed the book very much, he said that the ending was frustrating for him, and I
exactly.
can understand. But
As a reader,
thinking back to my decision, reconsidering it, I think I wouldn't change anything, because uh, uh, when I wrote it, I've already had in mind that this is how things were to be, and it makes the second volume even more interesting, and it comes to complete and to, I think, in my opinion. And as I said, I think I wouldn't change anything, although
I
I
think
did receive some 1-star
mm, I,
reviews.
I think from
Uh,
my perspective, it's just the fact that the book I read had no conclusion, no answers to anything, and that was disappointing. I like the idea of hinting at the next book and giving you some info of what's coming, but at least answer some questions, or solve some issues, so that you feel like it was worth reading through the whole book, to get to some answers at least.
okay, I just had a very
um,
exciting question in my mind. I want both of you to answer it. So I'm going to say, uh, what do you think would happen as a reader if you read a book? No, not as a reader. Just listen to the question. So, what are your what are your thoughts about a book that ends satisfactorily? Everything, every little problem in the book, every major problem has been resolved at the end. However, at the end, you just write one single sentence that has the potential of rocking the reader uh, about what just happened. It doesn't really spoil the entire book or directly say that there's going to be book two, but it does hint at something that creates this question in the reader's mind. Was all of this that I just read uh, real, or like, is this what I read, or do I have, or is there something else or more to the story? But in reality, there is nothing more to the story. The author just put that sentence over there to tease you.
Well, I was just going to say, if whatever that situation is at the end, okay, say for example, you've invested in this story and you've like believed everything and everything's answered at the end, and then you end it with, and then he woke up from a dream, I will just throw that book against the wall and never read anything from that author again. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, not too obvious that the entire story will be spoiled. It's like
Yeah.
the reader is like, okay, the story is complete and everything is good. The entire story has ended beautifully, but you just give this one little question just to hint at the fact that life might not always be roses and lilies,
mm,
but there are also the thorns on the roses and the dirt under the lilies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
I
think it
agree
would be
with Mariana.
disappointing if there isn't a follow-up then.
Uh, because it's nothing so major. It just has to be, you know why I am saying this? Because I did this with one of my stories. It doesn't really spoil anything or anything at all. It's more like it sparks your curiosity. Like, what if this were also to happen in the story? But then there's not going to be any book two. It's just for the readers to not end up with a smile, but more like with a kind of an
Like,
expression.
what? With a
I think it depends on the reader.
pitch voice. What?
It depends on
Mm,
what
very much.
readers expect to read. Some are keen on having happy endings, and when they don't, this leads to frustration, and he's not going to read your second novel.
Yeah.
So it depends on their personality. I don't know if it's well written and not just the sentence put there in order to uh, make me angry. Then if it has a purpose, then yes, I think it's a good strategy.
Mm,
If not, I think there are many this kind of TV series. And it reminds me of soap operas. Yeah,
mm.
ending with a
Yeah.
cliffhanger. Or even my
Yeah.
mom used to watch. We were talking about tension, the way that Indian, sorry, Indian soap operas. My mom is a big fan, and when they them fall again and again and again.
Exactly. That's uh, okay.
So
So
it's
yes,
actually something personal. It depends on the
Mm.
reader.
great. So
And I
before we
think
move,
it could be,
yes, Irina,
sorry,
please.
Yash.
No, you
I
continue.
think it could be something that makes a reader remember the author. Like you might just ask a question that sticks with them, and um, you know, that it might come back to them, and they think about it again, and they remember your book, and they might come back and look for more of your books.
Yes, that is excellent. Okay, so
Mm.
before we move on to the next section, there is something that we need to attend for the technology that has been bugging us throughout this video. So we'll be back. And we're back. Technology issue solved.
Um, we were talking about tension and using a dialogue to create tension. And I would mention also using subtext in creating tension. And another way to create tension is using conflict, especially internal conflict. This adds layers or within a character. These layers can deepen the tension. When characters struggle with their own fears, desires, or moral dilemmas, it adds complexity to a scene and makes the stakes feel more personal and relatable for the audience. Um, I would also mention creating stakes and consequences. Clearly establish what is at risk in a scene. This is a must. Higher stakes create higher tension, and you should make sure that the consequences of the character's actions or decisions are clear and significant. The higher the stakes, as I said, the higher the tension, the higher the relatability and the interest of the audience. And because they are going to invest in the outcome, um, and this is how you should use tension. This is about all I had to share with you today. I could talk forever. Trust me, I can. Um,
It was absolutely
but
lovely having Irina on the show, and all the tips that you shared. Definitely, I'm sure the viewers got to learn so much from this episode. This has been like one of the best episodes, at least according to me, because you've shared tons of knowledge, and it's just
Yes.
awesome.
Yes, I
uh,
agree with Yash. There's so much I've learned from today's discussion. So thank you for that.
Yes,
thank you for having me, Mariana, and thanks, Yash, for
It was
inviting
lovely.
me here. It's been a
absolutely.
pleasure talking to you. Um, anytime you wish to
We're
have
definitely
someone
going.
talk.
We're definitely going to have you back on the show. But before
Exactly.
you leave now, please tell readers about your books, where they can buy your book, and how they can enjoy the wonderful pieces of
Um,
writing that you've produced.
my name is Irina Dumitru. I'm the author of the Blue Fog series, and the first volume of this series is available on Amazon. Blue Fog, Irina Dumitru, Amazon. I'm working on this translation of the second volume of the book, which is going to be as well available on Amazon. Also, for those who do not know, I also write books for children. As I said, I'm also a teacher. I love children, and one of the uh, best, I might say, books I've written is, and the first is Sophie the Robot with a Soul, which is a sci-fi children's chapter book with a moral message, which young readers will definitely enjoy. Thank you. It's also on Amazon.
All uh,
Wonderful. Thank you.
all the links to
Amazon.
uh, Irina's books will be available in the description. You can check that out over there. And also the link to Irina's channel where she uploads English related videos. You can check that out as well. It was absolutely amazing having you, Irina. We'll definitely have you back. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Irina.
Thank you too. Bye.